It just depends on what type of press you use también. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be showing you how different HTVs look after months and even years of multiple washes and wearing. So I did a version of this last week with transfer papers. So if you're interested with that, definitely go check it out. But this week, it's going to be all about HTVs, different brands, how they look after so many times of wearing, so many times of washing, so many times of drying. So we're going to see how they look now. Some go back almost 3 years and some only a few months. So there's definitely a difference. So some of these HTV brands that I'm going to be mentioning today include Caesar, Cricut, Wallaca, Heat Transfer Source, BFlex America, some Amazon HTV brands like CareG, HTV Raw, Blulu, and a whole bunch more. So if you're interested to see how these HTVs look months, even years later, then let's get started. First up, we have this sweatshirt from September of 2020, and I used my Cricut Easy Press for this and some Caesar Easy Weed Glow in the Dark. And here it is now. As you could see, the big Hocus Pocus graphic is still on there. I will say there is a little stain in this section right here. I have no idea why that happened. It just looks like it's maybe part of the sweatshirt bleeding through or what. I have no idea what it is, but it does have some sort of stain there. But at least the graphic is still going strong. So this sweatshirt has little stars all over, and for the most part they're all still on there, but there are some that are kind of not fully on there anymore. So this one right here, as you could see, it's lifting, it's barely holding on. And then this one right here, still on there, but the edges are lifted. So for some of these, since the stars are pointy, some of the edges are a little bit lifted. But for the most part, out of all of them, the only ones that are just really not on there anymore would have to be these two that I just showed you. But overall, the HTV is still going strong. So for these type of shirts that I wear, like either a sweatshirt, t-shirts, just anything that I wear normally, I like to wash them in a delicate cycle and then just throw them into the dryer for about a minute and then let them air dry. So all of my regular clothes, I wash them like that. So this specific HTV, like I mentioned earlier, is a glow in the dark. So let's go ahead and turn off the lights and see if it still glows. Here it is in the dark, and as you could see, it's still glowing. It's super glowy. The whole washing and wearing after multiple years has not made a difference because it's still super glowy. I love it. Just look at that. It just straight up glows still. Next up, we have this one from February 2021, and this one includes 6 different HTV brands. So we have the Cricut Strong Bond, Thermoflex Plus, Wallaca Express, Caesar Easy Weed, Shimmica Hot Mark Revolution, and Craftables Smooth. So in the original video, the Thermoflex Plus did lift a little bit after the first wash. One of the corners just had a little bit of lifting, same as the Caesar. And here it is now. So the Cricut right here, this one still feels like it's on there. None of the edges are lifting, none of that. And then we have the Thermoflex Plus. So here, this one, it does have this little lifting, and this is the exact same corner that in the original video was lifting, but now it's like a little bit more lifted. Like in the beginning, the original video was just a little like edge, but now you can see that it's much more. But honestly, for this being 2 years old, I feel like that lifting isn't really that much, because by now it could have been completely off, but it's not. So even though this little corner is lifting, I feel like the rest of the Thermoflex Plus is still on there, which is a good thing. Next, we have the Wallaca Express. This one as well still feels like it's on there. None of the corners are lifting, none of that. Caesar right here, this one did have some lifting in the corners, and for the most part it's still on there, but there are some little corners right here, like in the K's, they're barely lifting, like those little points are lifting, but the rest of the letter is still there, so not bad. Then we have the Shimmica Hot Mark Revolution and the Craftables, and these as well still feel like they're on there, no lifting, none of the corners, none of that. So even though some of these have kind of lifted in some of the corners, I still feel like after 2 years these have definitely passed the wash and wear test. Then we have this one from April 2021, and these are all BFlex America HTVs. So we have the Sandy Glitter, Mirror, Glam, and Gimme 5. And in the original video, all of these survived the first wash. And here's how it looks now. So the Sandy Glitter still feels like it's on there. Not even the little edges are lifting or anything. So that one for sure passed the wash test, like after multiple washes and multiple wearing. Then we have the Gimme 5. This one as well, still going strong, no lifting. This one actually doesn't even feel like it's on the shirt. It just feels like it's part of the shirt. But on the other hand, this one right here, as you could see, the Glam, that one is the one that's just straight up wanting to lift. I even had to cut off a little part right here, the little section that goes here. Had to cut cut it off because it was just dangling and it was bothering me. So that one for sure is the one that is the least on the shirt. And then the mirror as well, this one does have some slight lifting as well in the little corners. So even though this one is not as lifted as the Glam, it does look more damaged because you can see all the little dents and folds in the image. So for this shirt, I actually use it to sleep, so it gets washed and dried differently than my regular shirts. So for these, I just do regular wash cycle and then I let it dry in the dryer. So I don't know if the whole dryer has to do with why this one is lifting, but maybe it doesn't because the glitter survived, even the Gimme 5, even a little bit the mirror. So I don't know what it is, but this one for sure did not survive. I mean, most of it is still on there even 2 years later, but you can just tell in the long run is not even going to survive. But at least 2 out of the 4 B-Flex HTVs survived even 2 years later. This next one is from May of 2021, and I use the Wallapress Craft Heat Press, and I use some Wallacut Express HTV for this one, and here it is now. So this one, I've washed it and worn it plenty of times, and as you could see, the HTV is still going strong. It's still on there. Maybe a few corners are lifting a little bit, but that tends to happen when it comes to like HTV that has a blunt corner like that. It tends to lift, like it's not completely lifting all the way, but there's like a little point right there, you know? So it's in this little corner and then over here as well. But besides that, it's still going strong, and it's for sure survived the multiple times of wearing and washing that I've done. Next, we have this tee from May of 2021, and I used some Caesar Glitter HTV for this. And then I sublimated an image on top of that. And here it is now. So this one definitely feels like it's still going strong. There's no lifting in the edges, none of that, no peeling. Some of these sections do have some ripple going on. I don't know if it has to do with the HTV or if it wasn't pressed completely flat or what. But besides that, everything still feels like it's on there. But these little ripples right here, these sections that don't look like they're completely smooth with the image, this did happen in the original video. I guess my HTV didn't press flat, so it made the image sublimate a little bit bubbly. But besides that, everything else, the HTV is still on there, the sublimation is still on there. So far so good, and this is a whole 2 years later. Then we have this tee from July of 2021, and for this one I use different HTVs. I have some Wallacut Express in different colors, some Caesar Sparkle, and then some Deco Film Soft Metallics. And here it is now. For the most part, it still seems like it's on there, but if you start to touch it, there's definitely some edges lifting. So we have the corner right there. We have that little section. You see that? Just wanting to come off. Especially this one right here, the whole bikini bottom is the one that is definitely suffering the consequences. Do you see that? So it's for sure not the whole thing, but for the most part, the sparkle is the one that wants to lift. The sparkle here that's on top of the Wallacut Express, that one is still going strong. It's just these right here. You have that section. I don't even know what happened to my little circle. See, the one that I was telling you that isn't even surviving anymore, I don't know where it went, but yeah, it's already gone. So for the most part, this one didn't really survive. It's still attached, but we lost a little piece there. And then the rest, these for the most part are still on there. The soft metallics still feel like they're on there. There's no lifting, no peeling, none of that. Then we have the rest of the Wallacut Express. These right here, still going strong. They are little, but they're still attached, no lifting. And these actually do feel like they're part of the shirt. You can't even feel that they're on there. So this is definitely a thin HTV. So the Wallacut Express definitely survived. The soft metallic survived, but as you could tell, the Caesar Sparkle, not so much. This next tee is from August 2021, and for this one I used Fashion Flex Color Changing HTV in 3 different colors. And here it is now. So this is another PJ shirt, so this one gets washed and dried normally. So by feeling it, all the HTVs are still intact. None of them have any lifting. None of the colors are lifting, so they're all pretty much on there still. But even though they're still adhered to the shirt, the HTV does have some damage to it. Like without the sun, you can't really tell the white color. You can't tell that there's like damages on the HTV. So here's a clip of me taking it out into the sun, and as you can see, the colors aren't as bright as they were in the original video. It's still changing color, but like the yellow isn't as bright as it was in the original post. The same as the purpley one and the blue. They're not as intense as they were before, and you could tell from the block letters that there's some damage going on. Like they're not as smooth. You could just see like it has some sort of texture going on, like I guess all the folds from all the time wearing it and like washing and drying and all of that. You could straight up see that the HTV isn't plain Jane anymore. But apart from it actually surviving the wash after all this time, it did lose its color and the HTV is not as smooth as it was before. Next we have this one from August of 2021, and these are all Amazon HTVs. So we have Arhiki, Blulu, Caregy, HTV Raw, and XLSFPY. And in the original video, all of these survived the first wash. And here they are now. These are still going strong even a whole year and a half later. Running my hands through it, there's no lifting, no peeling, none of the edges want to lift, none of that. So these are definitely still going strong. This one right here, the Carriagey, does have some little staining going on right there, as well as the HTV Rant. There's some sort of like glue residue there. That probably has nothing to do with the way it survives the wash, but just wanted to point it out. But besides that, all of these definitely have survived multiple washes because this is a shirt that I wear regularly. So still going strong even a whole year and a half later. This next one is from October of 2021, and I used the Wallapress Drawer Clamshell Heat Press and the Wallapress Craft Heat Press. And for these, I use the Caesar Glow in the Dark HTV, Decofilm Soft Metallics, and the Caesar Holographic Pearl. And in the original video, the silver already had some little bubbles going on because I guess I didn't let it cool enough, so it created some sort of texture. And here it is now. So everything is still intact. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really wear this shirt, so it hasn't been washed many times. But even though it hasn't, it's still going strong. There's no lifting on any of the edges. The silver parts still have some texture going, but it's not like more than it was before. It's still practically the same. The holographic is still going strong. The glow in the dark, we're gonna see if it still glows. And the sleeves, still going strong. You see the hollow still has some shift to it. So let's go ahead and turn off these lights and see if it still glows after all this time. And here it is in the dark. As you can see, it's still glowy, it's still bright, it's still going strong after all this time. So for sure, the glow in the dark effect is still going strong. Then we have this one from November 2021, and this one is 4 different glitter HTV brands. So we have Heat Transfer Source, Caesar, the Paper Studio, and Cricut. And in the original video, all of these passed the first wash test. And here it is now. So from looking at them, they all look like they just straight up survived the wash. There's no major lifting, but 2 of these do have some lifting in the corners. So this one right here, the Heat Transfer Source, it has a bit of a lifting right there in this little corner. It's barely there, but it's definitely lifted. Then this one right here, the Caesar, also has a little bit of a lift in this little corner right there. You can't really tell unless you like just straight up look for it. But yeah, apart from that, only these little edges, but the rest, all the small little parts have definitely survived. So overall, all 4 of these brands are still going strong. But this one I have washed maybe less than 5 times. So this one hasn't really gone through the whole washing and wearing. So this one is still surviving, but it hasn't been washed as much as the rest. This next one is from December 2021, and I used some Caesar Easy Weed in 2 colors and then some Caesar Glitter. And here it is now. So this one has only been washed a handful of times, so not many. But as you could see, everything is still on there. There's no lifting in the corners, none of that. The glitter is still intact. I feel like for some reason, glitter tends to be the one that gets lifted the most. But no, this one overall is still going strong even after the few times that I washed it. Next, we have this sweatshirt from March of 2022, and for this I use different colored Caesar Easy Weeds and then some Easy Weed Stretch. And here it is now, a whole year later, still going strong even after all those layers. Everything is still intact, even the little edges, the corners, all of that still going strong. I will say this one, since it's such big HTV pieces, they do tend to fold depending on the way you fold it. Like there's some folds going on right there, you probably can't even tell, but depending on the way you fold HTV, if it's a big graphic, the HTV might stay bent like that. So definitely be mindful of that. Can you tell right there? So besides the little folds going on right there, these sections down here, the vertical pieces, they do tend to have, I don't know if you could see it, it has some little like ripple effect. I don't think that happened in the original video. I'm just now noticing it, but it's the Easy Weed Stretch that has the ripple going on. So this teal color is the one that's Easy Weed Stretch. So that's the one that has the little ripple going on. The rest of it, the black and the white, seem to be smooth. So it's kind of weird that the stretch is doing that. But besides that, all the layers are still going strong. This has been worn many times, washed many times. I still love it. I'm obsessed. So I'm glad that a whole year later, it's still going strong and there's no lifting or anything. Next, we have this tee from March of 2022, and these are all Tech Wrap HTVs. So we have the Chameleon, the Galaxy Pattern, Glitter, and Colorful Splash Pattern. And in the original video, there was some lifting in parts of the glitter and then a small star of the Colorful Splash. And here it is now. Those lifts that happened in the original video are still there. So this little corner right here, this is where it was in the original. This part is still lifted. And then this was a corner that had lifted as well in the original video. And this one doesn't even feel like it's on there anymore. But yeah, the glitter for sure out of all of these are the ones that does have some lifting. So the Chameleon still feels like it's on there. The Galaxy still feels like it's on there. It does have the whole damage that happened in the original video because of the whole carrier sheet, but it's still going strong. Even the Colorful Splash still going strong. In the original video, obviously this one lifted, but I can't even tell that it's lifted anymore. But the glitter has that section right there, even here. So the glitter definitely has some sort of waves, and I feel like the waves is what's making it lift. And this shirt does get used to sleep, so this one constantly gets washed and dried. So it's pretty impressive to see that most of these are still on there. Even the glitter, it might be lifting, but the fact that it's lifting and it hasn't lifted more even after those multiple washes is pretty interesting, because I think the amount of lift that is here is what was in the original video, you know, so maybe it didn't press correctly the first time. But yeah, definitely not as bad for it being washed for over a year constantly, you know. Then we have this tee from May of 2022, and these are all B-Flex America HTVs. So we have the Gimme 5, Mirror, Flock, and Glitter. So all of these survived the original wash, and here it is now. So this is another shirt that I used to sleep, so this one gets washed and dried all the time. And looking at it, they all pretty much have survived except one, which is this one right here, the Mirror. There's a little lift in that corner right there. I feel like if I were to pull it, it would just completely come off. So there's lifting in that one. The rest still feel like they're on there. And it's surprising to see that the glitter actually survived being layered on top of the flock, because usually that's not the case with other flocks, you know. So it's interesting to see that it actually survived that. So besides most of them surviving the wash, the Gimme 5 right here does have some staining right there. I don't know where it came from or what's happening there, but there is some staining. I don't think that has anything to do with the HTV itself, but just wanted to point it out. But overall, 3 out of the 4 B-Flex HTVs have survived a whole year later. Next, we have this one from June of 2022, and these are all HTVs from AliExpress. They don't have specific names, they were just from 5 different sellers. And in the original video, they all survived the first wash test. And here they are now, still going strong. None of the corners lifting, peeling, none of that. This one gets worn normally. They're all still adhered to the t-shirt, still going strong, and that's super interesting because these are from AliExpress and they're super duper cheap, so that's very, very interesting. Then we have this one from June of 2022, and for this one I used some Caesar Easy Weed, Caesar Glitter, the Paper Studio Glitter, and then some Hot Fix rhinestones. And for this one I had designs in the front and back. And here's how the front of the design looks now. The glitter is still going strong. None of the edges are lifting. It's small little mosaic like shapes, and they're still on there going strong. These are the Hot Fix rhinestones. For the most part, all of these are intact except for this little guy right here. He got lost, so there's one missing right there. This one has been washed plenty of times. I did mean to go in and replace the little rhinestone, but I've just not done it. But overall, besides that little missing rhinestone, the HTV still going strong. The Easy Weed piece in the back still going strong. So it's still looking good. And the back design as well, still going strong. Even though some of these sections are super thin glitter, everything is still on there. No lifting, none of that, even after being washed for almost, 9 months. So for sure, this one front and back, still going strong. Next, we have this sweatshirt from August of 2022, and for this I used some Tech Wrap HTV. So I used some Puff HTV and then some glow in the dark Puff HTV as well. And here it is now. So this one for sure has passed the wash test. There's no lifting, none of that. But I will say, looking at it closely, I feel like the whole puff of it is not even there anymore. Like in the beginning, in the original video, it was puffy, but not as super puffy. But now I feel like it's not completely flat, but it's not puffy like the original video. There's still some texture going on, but it feels flatter than the original. I don't even remember how puffy it was in the original video, but it's definitely not as puffy as it once was. I don't know if it's it being washed or what, but it for sure is not as flat as it once was. But at least it passed the wash test, you know. Just the whole puffiness of it isn't as puffy as it was a few months ago, you know. Last but not least, we have this tee from August of 2022, and this one, it's 6 different glow-in-the-dark HTVs. So we have B-Flex America, Tech Wrap, Wrap Expert, Renli Tong, Guanging Tong, and Caesar. And in the original video, the Renli Tong was the only one that didn't pass the wash test. It had some lifting on the A and I letters. And then all were pretty much glow in the dark except the B-Flex. That one wasn't as intense as the rest of them. And here it is now. As you could tell, we have a letter missing, which is this one right here, the Ren. Like I stated earlier, the I and the A were the ones that didn't survive the original wash. Look at the A is just almost wanting to come off. The I was hanging on for dear life and it annoyed me, so I just took it out. But yeah, it wasn't even on there anymore. So that one for sure has not survived. And this one right here, the B-Flex, still feels like it's on there. Tech Wrap as well, still going strong. Then we have the Wrap Expert, still going strong. Like I stated, the Ren, nope. You could tell after a certain amount of time it's just gonna come flying off. And then the Guanging Tong, this one still going strong as well. Caesar as well. So out of 6 of these, only one of them has not been surviving the wash. I do use this t-shirt for PJs, so this one gets washed all the time, dried all the time, and clearly 5 of these are going strong with the way it's being washed and dried, and one of them is suffering badly. Because look, give it like 10 more washes and then this thing is just gonna come off, you know? And now let's just go ahead and see how glowy these still are. So let's go ahead and turn off the lights. Here they are in the dark. As you can see, the B-Flex is definitely not as bright as the rest. The tech wrap right here is still brighter, I feel like, than the rest. And we have these next 4 that look kind of similar. So out of all of these, they're still glowing, except the B-Flex is still slowly fading and fading and fading in comparison to these. We have the Ren right there missing. Even though it's missing, at least it's still glowy, you know? So at least 5 out of the 6 are still going strong when it comes to the glowing. So after all of that and comparing how the HTVs looked in the original video versus now, I feel like there are different factors in whether an HTV is going to survive or not. So it definitely depends on the HTV itself, what type of HTV. Usually I feel like the regular plain Jane HTVs will last longer in comparison to like the more fancier ones, like let's say glitter or like a holographic, because those have like more of like a thicker texture and they're different than like the regular HTVs who seem to be thinner. So definitely that will play a big part in whether one is going to survive or not. Also be mindful what type of press you're going to use. Definitely, I feel like with an iron, you're not going to get the results that you want. So stick to, I guess, an easy press. It's more like a glamorized iron, but I still think an easy press is way better than just a regular iron. So an easy press will still get your results, but I think if you want something to last you time and time and time again, I would say go with the big heat press. You can do the small little handheld presses, but for sure, I feel like the heat press, after owning one for a few years, it's definitely going to give you better results than an easy press. Like with an easy press, you're still going to get good results, but with the big heat press, I feel like you're going to get longer lasting results. For example, this one right here, this one was done in an easy press, and like I mentioned earlier, it's still going strong. The HTV is still going strong, so obviously I did give it enough pressure, but like I mentioned, these little stars back here are barely holding on for dear life. So this one was pressed with the easy press and it's still going strong, but this one right here was also pressed with the big heat press, same vinyl, same brand, same everything, so and it's still going strong. So definitely I feel like this one for sure is gonna probably last longer than this one right here, but luckily this one is still going strong. It's been washed way more than this blue one right here. So it's definitely good to be mindful of what type of press you're going to use for your shirt or your sweatshirt or whatever it is that you're making. So be mindful of that. And another thing, always make sure to have enough pressure. If you don't have enough pressure, then obviously your HTV is not going to last long. With the big heat press, the press is going to do the pressure for you, and with an easy press, obviously you have to do the pressure yourself. But that's not always a bad thing, because this one right here, all of these were used with the easy press, and look, they've all survived because clearly I put enough pressure, because look, all of these are still going strong. There's no lifting. So that's not to say that the easy press isn't going to work. It is, because look, I think it just depends on the brand, honestly. Like, just give it enough pressure, but always keep in mind what type of brand you're using, because as you can see here, this one used the easy press as well, and 5 out of the 6 are still going strong. This one clearly is not going to go strong. I feel like, I don't know if I would have gotten the same results if I would have used the big heat press. Who knows? We'll never know. But yeah, that's why I feel like the HTV brand itself does make a difference, because some might be better than others. So my favorite HTV brand is Caesar, and that's not to say that Caesar is going to last forever, because not everything lasts forever. For example, this one right here, this glitter competition, the Caesar one right here, it did lift a little bit, and for this one I use the easy press, so after multiple washes there is some lifting for the glitter. But this one over here is also Caesar glitter. This one was made with the big heat press, and these right here aren't lifting or anything. That just means that the press sometimes makes a difference, you know, because you have the big heat press right here versus the easy press right here using the same exact HTV brand. So there's definitely a difference when it comes to that. And like I mentioned, I feel like the glitters, the holographics, all of those are definitely more sensitive than regular HTV. I feel like you could get away with using regular HTV with any press. For example, right here, 5 out of the 6 are still going strong. These were used with an easy press. So these, I think you could get away with it. But these more fancier ones, I feel like those are harder, they're thicker, so they're going to be more bound to peeling. So keep that in mind. Another thing to consider would be the way you wash your shirts. I personally wash all my regular shirts, like I mentioned, in the delicate cycle, and then I throw it into the dryer for like a minute, then let them completely air dry. So this one right here, that's exactly how I wash it. And these are still going strong. There is a little bit of lift on some of the corners, but this one was done with an easy press, so I feel like if it was done maybe with the big heat press, all of these would still be going strong. But honestly, for this being washed multiple times, it's still going strong. I feel like the whole air drying, the delicate cycle, I feel like it's making a difference, because this little corner right here, I feel like if it was just thrown into the dryer, would just completely come off. Just be mindful of the way you wash them, and honestly, they might not always make a difference, because this one right here, like I mentioned, I just wash this one in a regular cycle, just put it to dry because I wear this to sleep. So 2 out of 4 of these are still going strong. The Gimme 5 is still on there. It's like holding on for dear life. Same thing with the glitter. And the glitter usually is one of those that likes to peel right away, but this one obviously it's not. So this one has survived multiple washes on a regular cycle and then a regular drying cycle. So those 2 are going strong. This one right here, not so much. Like I mentioned, those little fancy ones are the ones that just don't want anything to do with like staying on a shirt. And I feel like this one, the way it lifted, it might have been because of the dryer. But for this one, I don't really mind it because I wear it to sleep. So if it completely comes off, like it is what it is. But yeah, just wanted to show what could happen if you just throw your shirts into like a regular cycle and then actually dry them in the dryer. Because this one right here, it's washed the same. I use this one to sleep as well. All of these are still going strong except the glitter. And it's kind of interesting because this one gets washed normally, it gets dried. And these are more fancier HTVs. You have the pattern HTV and the chameleon. And those are still sticking on, which is kind of weird because it does get dry. And then the glitter over here, I'm guessing because it's thicker, it's not really surviving that drying. I really don't feel like it has anything to do with just the regular wash cycle. I feel like it has to do more with the way you dry your shirts. Because I don't know if you know this, but if you were to stick an iron inside the HTV and just put the platen to like be throwing the heat onto the HTV, that's exactly how you remove HTV from a shirt. So clearly HTV doesn't really like heat after it's pressed. So I feel like you just shouldn't dry it. I personally just like to let it air dry. I feel like it's gonna get the most wear out of just it being air dried and not full on getting dried, you know, super hot. So keep that in mind. You don't want to iron over these. You definitely don't want to iron behind it because like I mentioned, I feel like that loosens up the glue and it's just gonna lift on its own. So definitely be mindful of all those things if you want to get the most out of your HTV. This is what I've come to realize with the shirts that I've made and washed over the years. So this is what's I feel like has worked for me and what's gonna help me in the future. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this little comparison of how things looked in the original video versus now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave me your thoughts in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already. And yeah, I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.